The day begins just like any other, with the sun painting a golden hue across the city and the morning coffee brewing a comforting aroma in my kitchen. But today, my heart carries an unspoken weight, a nagging doubt that has been growing inside me like a thorn. I call my father to check on him, as I've done every day since Mom passed away 6 months ago. His voice, usually full of a mournful depth, today sounds oddly cheerful. "Hey, son. Liz is here. She's been such a blessing, keeping me company. You know, she reminds me so much of your mother," he chuckles, a sound that stirs a mix of emotions within me. "I'm glad to hear that, Dad." "She's really supportive," I reply, my words trailing off, tinged with a suspicion I can't quite place. As I hang up, the image of Liz's recent frequent visits to my father's house gnaws at me. She said she wanted to support him through his grief, a gesture I admired, yet something feels off. Deciding to shake these thoughts, I resolve to surprise them with lunch, hoping to ease my restless thoughts with a pleasant visit. Driving to my father's house, the streets blur together, my mind racing faster than my car. Pulling into the driveway, I notice Liz's car parked a little too close to the garage, her usual spot when she stays longer than intended. I enter through the back, the familiar creak of the door echoing my tense heartbeat. The house is silent except for the faint sound of laughter from upstairs. My stomach tightens as I ascend the steps, each footfall heavy with dread. Reaching the top, I pause outside the partially open door of my father's bedroom. The voices inside freeze my blood, light, teasing, too intimate. My hand trembles as I push the door open. The scene before me shatters my world. My father, half naked, and Lizzie, lost in laughter and oblivious to my presence, turn to me with shock in their eyes. The tool in my father's hand, the one he used to work on his paintings, now paints a scene of betrayal on Liz's bare skin. "What? How could you?" My voice breaks, a mix of rage and pain tearing through me. Lizzie stammers, her face draining of color. "It's not what it looks like, Don't insult me anymore." I cut her off, my heart pounding in my ears. "I trusted you, both of you." My father, struggling to cover himself, pleads, "Son, I can explain." "Save it!" I shout, backing away, my eyes locked on the two people I trusted most, now the architects of my greatest pain. I storm out, the images burning behind my eyelids. In the car, the world blurs again, this time with tears of betrayal. I drive aimlessly, thoughts of revenge weaving through my shattered heart. By the time I return home, the plan is clear. I will expose their deceit, ensuring that their lives crumble under the weight of their betrayal. Lizzie would lose more than she ever gained, and my father, he would realize the cost of his actions. As night falls, my resolve hardens like the darkness enveloping the city. This is just the beginning. Lizzie and my father have not only broken my trust, but have set the stage for their own undoing. The pain they inflicted will be returned tenfold. The road to revenge is clear, and as the plot thickens, the intrigue of how I will dismantle their lives promises a story filled with twists and dark turns. The morning after discovering the betrayal is the coldest of my life, each moment laced with a frosty clarity. As the sun barely crests the horizon, I'm already awake, plotting my next steps. The pain from yesterday fuels a meticulous plan, one that ensures maximum impact. I start with a phone call to Lizzie, my voice eerily calm, a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. "Lizzie, we need to talk. Can you meet me at the cafe downtown?" "In an hour," I say, each word deliberate, leaving no room for her to decline. There's a pause, a breath of hesitation. "Yes, okay, I'll be there." The cafe is quiet when I arrive, a perfect stage for confrontation. As Lizzie walks in, her eyes wary and her posture defensive, I can feel the shift in power. "Why did you call me here, after yesterday?" Lizzie asks, her voice trembling slightly. "To discuss terms," I reply, my tone flat. "Terms of our separation and the consequences of your actions." Her eyes widen. "You mean divorce?" "Yes, divorce. But that's just the beginning. I want everyone to know why. Your parents, our friends. Everyone. I lean forward, the intensity of my gaze pinning her in place. Liz's face pales. You wouldn't. Please, this could destroy me. You thought of that before, didn't you? Before betraying me with my own father? I made a mistake. Please, let's sort this privately. There's nothing private about betrayal, I snap. The cafe's sparse occupants glance our way, drawn by the sharpness in my voice. Lizzie looks around, panicked, then lowers her voice. What do you want? I want you to leave the city. Leave and never come back. And I want a signed confession of your affair for the divorce proceedings. Her hands tremble. And if I do all this, you'll keep it quiet? I nod, a slow, calculated movement. Yes. But if you don't, I'll make sure the affair is the first thing anyone thinks of when they hear your name. She nods, defeated. I'll do it. I'll leave. As she stands to go, I feel a bitter satisfaction. Part 1 of my plan is in place, but it's not enough. Not yet. My next visit is to my father's house. He's alone, sitting in his study, surrounded by memories of a family he's just shattered. He looks up, surprise etching his face. Son, Save it, I cut him off, my voice cold as steel. I'm here to tell you what's going to happen now. You're going to retire. You'll sell this house and go somewhere far from here. If you refuse, the details of your actions will become very public. My father stares at me, the realization dawning in his eyes. You'd expose your own father? To protect what's left of my dignity, yes. He slumps, defeated. All right. I'll do as you say. As I leave his house, the weight of my action starts to settle in. Revenge is setting its hooks deep, but so is the isolation that accompanies it. The sky darkens overhead, mirroring the shadow that now hangs over my family's legacy. As I drive away, the plot thickens with each mile. What started as a personal vendetta is morphing into something larger, a story of revenge that could consume more than just the lives of those immediately involved. The intrigue deepens, and with it, the understanding that this path might lead to unforeseen consequences. The road ahead promises further revelations and challenges as the full impact of today's decisions begins to unfold in the chapters to come. The impact of my initial action starts to ripple outward, carrying a mix of dread and determination in its wake. Today, I'm focusing on solidifying the fallout, making sure that Lizzie and my father's betrayal doesn't just end with their exile from the city but marks them forever. The early morning finds me at the office of my attorney, a stark room filled with legal books and the scent of strong coffee. Mr. Carson, my lawyer, greets me with a nod, his face a mask of professional neutrality. Have you brought the documents? He inquires, extending a hand. I pass over the signed confession from Lizzie and a written agreement from my father about his immediate retirement and relocation. Everything is here, as discussed. I want to push forward with the divorce proceedings immediately. Mr. Carson peruses the document with a meticulous eye. This is quite straightforward if tragic. I'll file these today. The court will likely want to expedite given the circumstances. Thank you, I reply, my voice firm. And the other matter? He looks up, understanding. The public disclosure? Yes. I want a controlled leak. Just enough to make sure her betrayal is known, but not so much that it comes back on me. Mr. Carson nods, tapping a pen against his desk. I'll handle it discreetly. By the end of the week, the right people will start talking. With the legal wheels in motion, I leave the office feeling a cold satisfaction. The next step requires a more personal touch. I need to ensure that the social circles both Lizzie and my father frequented know the truth behind their departure. I start with calling Julia, a close family friend and an active member of the community, known for her gatherings and her extensive network. Julia, we need to talk, I begin, my tone grave. It's about Lizzie and my father. Her voice, warm at first, cools considerably. I heard they are leaving town suddenly. What's going on? It's unpleasant, and I hope to keep it private, but I think you should know the truth, I say, pausing for effect. Lizzie and my father had an affair. It's why they are both leaving. I found them together. There's a sharp intake of breath. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I know. I thought it best you hear it from me. I trust you'll handle this information delicately. Of course, you have my full support, Julia replies, her tone now icy. I'll make sure people understand the situation correctly. As I hang up, I feel the first twinge of unease. The network of whispers will now carry my story, twisting it through the grapevine of our community. My reputation will survive, bolstered by my victim status, but the cost of this path begins to loom larger. Later that day, I drive past the house I once shared with Lizzie, now stark and empty. Memories flash through my mind, laughter, love, and betrayal. Pulling over, I stare at the lifeless windows, a hollow feeling creeping in. Suddenly, my phone buzzes. It's a message from an unknown number, but the content chills me to the bone. You think you've controlled the story, but you're not the only one with secrets. I sit back, the phone slipping slightly from my grasp. Who sent this? What do they know? As the sun sets, casting long shadows over the street, I realize that my plan for retribution might have set off a chain reaction I can no longer control. The intrigue of the main plot thickens, hinting at hidden depths and new threats. This story, rooted in betrayal and revenge, is far from over. The evening air is thick with tension as I sit in the dim light of my study, contemplating the cryptic message from an unknown adversary. The once clear path of revenge now feels muddied with unseen dangers. Who could know my secrets? Who dares challenge my actions? My phone vibrates again, snapping me out of my brooding. It's another message from the same unknown number, more direct this time. Meet me at the old pier at midnight if you want answers. Gripping the phone tightly, I make my decision. Tonight, this ends, one way or another. The pier is deserted when I arrive, the sound of lapping waves mixing with the creaking of old wood. The moon casts a pale light, creating deep shadows where any number of dangers could lurk. I scan the area, my senses heightened to any movement. Surprised you came alone, a familiar voice calls out from the shadows. It's Julia, her figure emerging into the moonlight, an envelope in her hand. Julia? What is this? I demand, my voice echoing slightly in the open air. She approaches, her expression unreadable. I'm here because I'm your friend, or at least I was. But I'm also a friend to your father. He didn't betray you alone, and neither did Lizzie. There's more to the story, and you should have the full picture. She hands me the envelope. Inside are photographs and messages, proof of a deeper deceit. They reveal a conspiracy involving not just Lizzie and my father, but several close friends, all motivated by various grudges and jealousies against me. I don't understand. Why? I managed to say, the weight of betrayal heavier than I imagined. Jealousy. Greed. You were successful, loved. They wanted a piece of that, and your father, he was lost without your mother, vulnerable to suggestion, Julia confesses, her voice a mixture of guilt and sorrow. The revelation strikes a harsh chord within me. My revenge, targeted and precise, was based on partial truths. The full extent of the betrayal is far more complex and widespread than I ever suspected. Thank you for telling me, Julia. But you understand, I can't just let this go, I say, my voice cold, my decision clear. I know, and I'll face whatever comes. But remember, not everyone is your enemy, she replies, then turns and walks away, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The next days are a blur of activity. Armed with the full truth, my revenge becomes more elaborate, more insidious. Using the evidence Julia gave me, I systematically dismantle the lives of everyone involved. Financial ruin, public humiliation, and carefully leaked secrets tear apart the fabric of their lives. My father and Lizzie, already outcasts, find their new lives disrupted by anonymous tips that lead to legal troubles and social isolation. My methods are ruthless, leaving no room for forgiveness or second chances. One by one, they experience the pain of betrayal, the sting of lost everything they cherished. As the dust settles, I stand alone, the last man standing in a war of my own making. The cost of my vengeance is high, leaving me isolated in a hollow victory. The people I once called friends and family are now just memories tainted by betrayal. In the final twist, as I walk through the now quiet rooms of my house, I find one last letter, left in Liz's handwriting. It's an apology, filled with regrets and explanations, none of which matter anymore. The letter ends with a postscript that chills me to the bone: I was pregnant. The child was yours. I sink to the floor, the letter slipping from my numb fingers. The revenge I thought so righteous was more destructive than I could ever have imagined. In my quest to punish betrayal, I destroyed innocent lives along with the guilty. The story concludes with me looking out over the city, the weight of my actions a heavy cloak around my shoulders. I have avenged the betrayals, but at the cost of everything I once held dear. The echoes of my vengeance will haunt me forever, a reminder that in the game of revenge, there are no true winners, only survivors marred by their deeds.